Hello, welcome to 15 Minutes of Consulting Best Practices. My name is Maria Isabel Rios, and as you can see, David is not here today for good reason. He's in Palm Beach meeting with leaders of boutique consulting firms. Is Boutique Consulting Forum Week this week, whole week, running in two groups. And so part of what they're doing is meeting, sharing their experiences about leading firms and learning from each other's experiences. So David will join us next week. In the meantime, share your questions, share your comments about growing your consulting firm. And thank you, Aaron. And hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. It takes me a minute to see your comments, to see your questions. And those of you who are familiar with the space know we welcome your participation, welcome your thoughts and your experiences. And what we're doing here is answering questions that have come either previously or that come in live about growing your firm and creating great success for you and for leaders of firms like yours. So with that, Jaren, why don't you share the first question that came in through the past week? All right, this question is from Tom. Thank you, Tom. I submitted a proposal last week and approval was delayed because the board asked for revisions and scoping it down. Okay, we're supposed to meet again soon. Apparently, some of the leadership team are saying they can do part of this work internally. Before our upcoming meeting, I want to tell the CEO that they cannot do this work internally. What do you think? All right, Tom, thank you for writing and thank you for sharing. Smart of you to write, right? So submitted the proposal and you got some feedback, not unusual. So here's the advice. Do not reach out and tell them you can do that internally before your meeting. Why? You have really nothing to gain, right? You already have a meeting in the plan. You know you're going to talk about the proposal. You know what the internal conversation is. At this point, all you can do is kind of trigger folks even more. So for the meeting, prepare to have the discussion of whether they can actually do it internally or not. And revisit the information you got during your context discussion, during your discovery conversations about why they need outside help. Hopefully you ask the question, right? Why go outside? Why now? And why come to your firm for help? So find ways to work hand in hand with the internal team and also find ways to understand if they should do that work, which pieces of the work should they do, and which pieces do they actually need to externalize? Who's best equipped to do what? So it's a conversation around can we, should we do it outside, should we do it inside? What you're doing in the conversation is arming the decision maker with better tools to actually lead their team into the decision and the aftermath of the decision of working with you to engage with an external consultant and for all the buy-in of the collaboration of having you as an external consultant. So the last thing you want to do now is push it so far so that you antagonize the people that will end up working with you. Instead, you want to create that buy-in where they actually see, you know what? Yeah, we could do it internally because we actually do have the capabilities, but it will take us so long to do it, or it would overtax us, or it will deter us from our first priority for 2025. So think about those priorities, have that conversation, find ways to bring them in. And always remember, internal staff and inertia are always the highest two form of competition that we face as consultants, right? So not surprising, you're going to find this again. All right, Tom, if this was helpful, let us know. And also those of you who are listening, Aaron and any others, let me know if this is helpful or not. All right, Jaren, since there are no live questions that I can see, why don't you share the next question that came in? Thank you. Okay, so Pat says, we're kicking off a project tomorrow, and I know that one of the people in the room, one of the bosses, doesn't understand anything about what we do. Okay. I don't want her to interrupt, and I know everyone else in the meeting doesn't want her to interrupt and ruin the meeting either. What should I do? Sorry, Pat, that you're in this situation, and good on you for anticipating it so that you won't be caught off guard. Okay, what should you do? You listen to this person that it's a potential disruptor of your meeting. You capture her request, you validate it, and then you move on, right? So how do you actually do that? You can say something like, thank you for the information. We captured it. We will look back with you. We will not solve it right now. So our job right now is to sort out the right way to do X, Y, Z. Then after the meeting, you find out one-on-one, how can you help through the problem that she's seeing, right? You validate the problem you just validated in conversation. Maybe there's something to it. Maybe there's a need of focus or a need to refocus that needs to happen. Not in your meeting, right? So at the meeting, you capture their request, you validate it, but then you move on. And you also outline that, and you make true on a promise to look back with her. If you create that, you can hopefully establish a better dynamic to work with her in the future, right? Where she knows she has objections, or if she sees a different path forward, she can bring that to you, and she can also learn not to expect for you to deter everything that you're doing or stop everything that you're doing to tend to her questions. So let me know what you think, how that works. Hopefully it works for you. And Jaren, if nothing else, we'll go into the next question. Okay, this question is from Sarah. Sarah says, we have an employee who has checkered performance, sometimes amazing, sometimes really bad. She drops the ball. Over the 3 years she's been with us, she's received feedback and her performance improves for a little while, then goes down again. She wants to be promoted, and when we talk about her performance, she gets defensive. Okay, in the last review, she was rude to her manager. Are we doing something wrong? What's the best next step from here? All right. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, this is such a challenging situation, and it's also sad, right? One of the toughest aspects of leading a firm is when you have employees that have high potential and have uneven performance to the point where sometimes they're excelling, sometimes they're floundering, and you don't quite know how to help them and what to do to support them better. You want to see everybody succeed, obviously. Needless to say, Sarah, nobody is jealous, right? Whether we're here with you live or we're watching it on, those who watch it on replay, nobody will envy you this one, that's for sure. And most of us who have led teams in consulting and who have worked in this for many years have been somewhat in your shoes. So we'll suggest a couple of paths. The first path is internal for your employee, and the second path is for the team that's supporting the employee, whether it's their manager or whether that's directly for you. So internal for your employee. Let's give your employee time to prepare. So what does it mean for her? Ask her, even if you had asked her before, ask her for this upcoming review to come into the conversation having done a self-assessment. In addition to the criteria that I'm sure you have for the role of what it means to succeed in the role, ask her to come thinking at a kind of one level higher, right? At a more macro level. What is working well for her in a professional context, of course? What is not working so well? Where does she feel that she's excelling? Where does she feel that she's facing challenges? And what is behind the situations where she's excelling, what's behind the situation where she's facing challenges. So you're basically asking her to sit for a little bit prior to her next review in introspection. By the way, this is a phenomenal exercise for everyone to do, whether they are your top performers or somebody who's just new coming into your firm, or somebody who has been with you many, many, many years and is just moving along their growth track, right? So good exercise to do. Come into your reviews, prepare both at the detail level of knowing what your role is and what your requirements are. We use a 3 rocks approach, but there are many approaches. Different firms have different approaches to that, right? But also at a more macro level, what really empowers, what's behind when you perform really well, what's challenging, what's behind when the things you find most challenging. If folks can find patterns, phenomenal, right? That's one step forward. Now that's what an exercise that ideally she's done herself, for herself, before coming into the meeting. The parallel track to that is you're going to give the manager or yourself a similar exercise where you're going to force yourself to come into the review from a space of curiosity, meaning really wanting to explore what is causing the inconsistency. And to that, you might want to follow a methodical analysis approach, and you may want to do that with your employee who's having the performance issues, right? We often leverage a book called Analyzing Performance Problems. Hopefully I got that right. I'm not the best with names, but that's the name of the book, I believe, right? And in that book, you have a step-by-step, how do you go step 1, step 2, step 3. It's pretty rigorous, it's pretty analytical. The point is, you want to go step by step so that you don't miss anything. And you really do kind of like an issue tree of thinking, where could the performance problems be? And what's in the hands of the employee, what's in your hands. Once you have done that exercise, in the text of what you share, really, or in the subtext, there's an element or an implication that there is no room for toxicity, right? So if you have done the exercise and you feel in integrity, that you follow the process and you came to the analysis from a space of curiosity, you're willing to listen, willing to understand, and you've given your employee the opportunity to do the same, and still the environment is toxic, you need to make a decision there on whether you're going to tolerate toxicity in your firm or not. And of course, we do have an opinion as to that, but ultimately you're leading your own firm and you need to decide where the bar stands as firm leaders, right? And ask to change behaviors according to your decision. So if your employees cannot commit to the values and to the behaviors that you want as the culture in your firm, then you have a different set of decisions to make. So if there is a plan, however, also decide on a follow-up. And oftentimes where we all fail is the follow-up plans are too far apart, right? Or too long to follow up. In this case, it seems your employee will also benefit from very quick, kind of very short-term follow-on milestones. So because the performance is up and down, you may want to follow up with them every 2 or 3 weeks. What's the next commitment we made to each other? You follow up on your commitments. You ask the employee to follow up on their commitments. How are we doing? Are we meeting our commitments? Then 2 or 3 weeks again. How are they doing? How are you doing against your commitments? And you keep going until you've corrected the situation. All right, Sarah, let me know how this goes. Hopefully this is helpful. And with that, we come to the end of our 15 minutes. So we have 2 requests for you. The first one is, if you haven't already added the 15-minute Monday Live link to your calendar that Jaren just shared here, add it to your calendar at the time that corresponds to your time zone. It will bring you right here every Monday, and that way you can join us, Send us your questions also ahead of time if you have them, like your colleagues have done or other folks in our tribe have done. And that way we can answer them the next time we come live. So davidaffields.com/Monday Live. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the articles that come out every Wednesday, do subscribe. They're filled with tactical and practical approaches to create success in your firm. And not only the articles and the illustrations are very rich, but also the comments and the opinions of others are very rich. Exactly, John. And thank you for your input. Thank you for joining us. Look forward to seeing you next Monday. Take care of your clients, take care of yourselves, and always be thinking about them and how to create success for all. See you next Monday. Thank you.